Right. I'm usually okay at public speaking, but this is a different kind of situation. A little nervous, might as well tell you now, so I don't throw up on the podium. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the student formerly known as Darby Biggart, and I'm going to tell you about the student perspective on Tom Carroll. I first met Tom and his lovely wife Cheryl in 2005 in December at the Black Tie event. I was a senior. I have no idea how as a sociology major I was seated at the, thank you, at the finance table, but it was certainly a lucky break for me because, my God, I can't talk about finance at all. Well, maybe now. Tom and Cheryl proved to be great company. I may have been a little bit nervous as a senior, but we shared bits and pieces of learned information about each other. They wanted to know about my life as a student athlete, which I suppose is why I was sent there in the first place. And being the sports people that they were, they wanted to know about lacrosse. Tom even said he'd go to a game or two for my final season. That's pretty exciting. Oh my gosh, the vice president wants to come watch me. That is so cool. I also found out that Tom studied forestry, and I never told him this, but I had trouble reconciling the accounting with the forestry, so I frequently had a vivid picture of him doing accounting for Smokey the Bear. In January, lacrosse started up again, and I would often see Tom at the gym before or after I was leaving practice. He always stopped to chat. First of all, once again, I was flattered he remembered who the heck I was. And he always remembered exactly what we discussed, and he said, oh, I'm going to be at a couple of those games. Well, sure enough, he kept his word. If I didn't spot his head in the stands, I usually knew he was there because he'd be able to talk to me about some sort of violent act that took place on the field, which made sense later when I found out he watched professional wrestling. After I graduated, I was hired at Wagner full-time, and I decided to start the MBA program. I'm looking through the course book. Oh my God, I have to take accounting. Well, I might as well get that out of the way. And who should walk through the door on the first day of class, dump his textbook and his ledger paper on the table in front of me, but Tom Carroll. Well, that's a relief. At least it's somebody I can cry to. He wrote on the board the very first day of class, assets minus liability equals owner's equity. I want you all to remember that because there's going to be a quiz on it later. He also made a point of saying, look, I'm a vice president, but I'm also your professor. Please come and see me if you need help. Yeah, right, like a vice president's going to have time for that. Don't you guys have, like, meetings or things? But, true to his word, he wrote it on the board every class. If you need help, make an appointment. Assets minus liability equals owner's equity. About the second week of class, we'd already had our first test. We did all right. He caught me as I was packing up. Let me just explain really quickly. As a social major, the world of humanities is a colorful one. You can rationalize things, you can talk about things. There's not always one easy answer. The accounting world is pretty black and white. There's really no reason to rationalize anything, and if you don't follow the rules, you're doing something wrong. It's kind of like the reverse of Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, only backwards. I left the colorful world of humanities and went to a gray toned world of accounting. So as he caught me, I was packing up. I was probably lost in my homesickness of the world of humanities. And he asked me how I thought he was doing. And I said, well, Professor, I don't think you can simplify this any further. I think you're doing a pretty good job. It's a tough thing to explain. The homework is really a problem. Well, why don't you make an appointment? So I thought, what the heck? I called Christine the next day. Said, can I please make an appointment with Tom to talk about my homework? So the first Q&A session went great. Oh, all right, my homework's not that bad. It became a routine very quickly. Every week I'd call Christine, once or twice, and I'd meet with Tom for about 45 minutes, maybe an hour, and we'd go over my homework. Kind of sounds really childish when I explain it that way. It paid off, and rather quickly. By the third test, I don't mean to brag, he gave me 110% and wrote on there, please try to do better next time. I got all the extra credit right as well. I'm sure entirely due to his tutor. He started bringing up accounting to me as possibly a career change. I'm sorry, Angelo, he did in fact poach me from your office. I politely reminded him that he'd been helping me with my homework since September, so maybe I'm not really as good as I might seem to be. He also fretted that no other students were taking him up on his offer for help. and they were still getting that equation wrong. Assets minus liability equals owner's equity. And I said, Tom, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you know, if they're not going to take you up on it, what can you do, right? He pushed accounting for the rest of the semester, and as it drew to a close, I received pretty high final marks. When winter break rolled around, he called me down to his office where I joined 2 of his employees for a celebratory sip of scotch. He can confess that now. So by now I'd gotten to know Tom pretty well, as well as 2 of his employees. And we'd have lunch every couple of weeks, every couple of days. He continued to push the accounting thing. Tom, for God's sake, you were working with me every week. We'd also chat about various things. He had a great sense of humor, which is going to be touched upon, I'm sure, by just about everybody who speaks today. It was easy to talk to him about just about everything. So, spring of 2007, I'm still in my first year of grad school. I can also say this now. I nominated him for Graduate Professor of the Year. It was me. It turns out that he won it, which means that I wasn't the only student that he had who felt that way. Apparently, that earned him bragging rights with a certain other person who taught classes. Somebody who I also took a class from, but we won't go there for now. But how could I not? How could I not? He's a vice president. He took so much time to help me, and I know that he was available to other students. I think once finals rolled around, people started showing up maybe a little bit more regularly. But he needed to feel good about what he was doing. To the other senior staff members in the audience, I never took a class from you, so I'm sure you'd set aside your time as well. But Tom was my experience with that. He helped a poor sociology student learn accounting, which to me was quite the task. In April of 2008, an accounting position opened up in Tom's department, and he asked me to apply for it. A few weeks before receiving my MBA, I joined Tom's accounting team. That was a team of 2 at the time. With one grad course, he had forever changed my career direction. He encouraged and helped me to make the leap of faith in my own abilities. So for the last 2 years, I've worked for Tom. By now, we've had many a pizza lunch at Frank and Zelda's. We got creative with the Joe and Pat's names after a while. Talked about college football all the time. Still looking for somebody to fill that gap at the moment since football season's back. We talked about the merits of Jack Donaghy, because other than Seinfeld, he also really loved 30 Rock, thank God. And we had many, many, many a good laugh about work, about the world, about accounting on occasion when it wasn't so black and white. And I think back about it now as I retrace our relationship in the way that our familiarity developed. I called him Sir when I first met him, Mr. Carroll when I'd run into him in the gym and at the stadium, Professor, obviously, in class and during our homework sessions, Tom when he finally insisted, Boss when I finally insisted, TC when he was one for a nickname that was somehow shorter than Tom, and TWOW where I discovered that he watched Jersey Shore. I think he knew what a difference he made to me. Sometimes I blamed him. But I learned a lot from Tom, and in closing, I'd like to leave you with 3 very important things that we often discuss. 1, you can't solve all your problems by shooting someone or setting a stranger on fire. 2, you should live every week like it's Shark Week. And for those of you that know 30 Rock, that might sound familiar. For those of you that don't, those were entirely Tom's ideas. And 3, perhaps most importantly, assets minus liability equals